Namaste and a hearty welcome to Soft Talk. It has been exactly 3 weeks since I came before you with Soft Talk. In this episode of Soft Talk, also, I'll be focusing mainly on a deepening crisis in our ancestral land, especially this crisis has deepened after the dissolution of the sovereign parliament. Sadly, both the government and the dissenters are staging protests, turning Kathmandu streets into some sort of battlefields. But first of all, let me start with major gifts from post movement governments to India for her role in regime changes. Let me start with the 1950s. The 1950s movement for democracy with monarchy uh, led to a political change, a political transformation. This the MP Koirala government, the Matrika Prasad Koirala government came to power, and after that, this government just gave away a major river system, the Kosi River, to India through a very controversial deal. This construction of the Kosi Barrage as part of that agreement would turn the Kosi River, also called the sorrow of Bihar, into the sorrow of Nepal, especially the southern parts located in the eastern region of Nepal. So that sorrow, the sorrow of Bihar, would turn into the sorrow of Nepal through that very controversial deal. And then came the BP Koirala government. This government handed over another river system, another major river system, the Saptagandaki river system, uh, to India through another controversial deal that is called the Gandak Agreement. That deal also quoted a lot of public outrage, uh, but like the deal was done, a self goal was achieved, if that is to be said like that. A self goal was effected against Nepal by a popularly elected government that made a mockery of democracy, that made a mockery of Nepal's national sovereignty. Then came the 1990s movement for restoration of multi-party democracy with constitutional monarchy. After the success of this movement, the government that came to power handed over another very important river system, the Mahakali river system, to India through a very controversial deal. It's called the Mahakali Treaty or the Mahakali Agreement. The parliament, the elected sovereign parliament, was hoodwinked, and the river system was just given away to India through a very controversial arrangement that was like there was a whole lot of horse trading in the parliament for the same. So it's a very controversial deal that further compromised on Nepal's national sovereignty, especially uh, including, water sovereignty of the country. That is how another lifeline of Nepal was gifted to India. Then after this change came the mid 2000 movement for the abolition of monarchy and for political change took place, and this move revolution uh, just ended up making Nepal uh, a secular federal democratic republic by abolishing the monarchy. So that phase, that revolution was followed by a gifting of this major river that is a tributary to the Saptakosi river system. The Arun river was gifted to India through this Arun 3 agreement with the Indian entity, the government owned the Indian public service undertaking, or it's like public enterprise called the Satluj Jal Vidyut Nigam Limited. This Arun 3 was given to that company, the Indian government owned company. That also raised a lot of hue and cry. That was another controversial deal. So at that time, at this time, it should be noted that such deals do not need to go through the sovereign parliament, so they can be just sold out for a penny or two quite easily by hoodwinking, by just ignoring the sovereign parliament. So that is how this river system was given. uh, Looking back, this the after this political change, the Sushil Koirala government gave away another river system, another major river. The water sovereignty of Nepal was compromised further through this Upper Karnali agreement. That was given to the Indian company, the GMR, and this company continues to just have this vice like grip over the upper Karnali project. It has not bothered to develop the project. It just continues to keep its hold onto the river without developing the project as promised. So like Nepal's hydropower potential, the irrigation potential uh, has been curtailed. It's a setback for Nepal's water sovereignty, for this power sovereignty through this Upper Karnali deal. And what has happened is after, like recently, this KP Oili government has handed over another lucrative project, the Lower Arun project, the cascade of the Upper Arun project, to the same company that I mentioned earlier, the Satluj Jal Vidyut Nigam Limited. It's like the minister, one of the ministers in the KP Oli government, has gone on record saying that it's like kind of a gift to India, this Lower Arun, for some sort of like political support that it has provided. So this is how Nepal's lifelines have been given away to the southern neighbor after each wave of political change. It's a kind of like gift that successive regimes have given to India for her crucial support in every wave of political change. Apart from these gifts, governments formed after almost all waves of political change have been facing charges of granting citizenship to Indian and other foreign nationals, especially Indian nationals, in exchange of support from New Delhi and other foreign headquarters for regime change. Given this context, we the people, those hitting the streets against the government, those hitting the streets for the government, and all other apolitical Nepalis based in Nepal and abroad, including the fence sitters, should have the courage to ask as to what the major gifts to India will be this time around in exchange of foreign support for toppling the KP Oli government. Better still, how about demanding that the opposing sides come up with white papers outlining their plans on what they intend to do after they come to power or after they manage to stay on to power. To hit the streets or not, we will decide only after reading those white papers and analyzing them. I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk with a free suggestion to the opposing parties. Do not promise us the moon, for you have failed us time and time again. And be aware that South Asia has been a black hole that has swallowed small territories that had features of nations. Perpetual unrest will not be in the interest of national sovereignty, especially in changing times and a constant geostrategic space, a squeezing geostrategic space where the superpower and the hyperpowers and other peripheral powers are fighting for influence. It will be in the best interest of Nepal and the Nepalese if the leaders manage to just find a solution on their own instead of calling for foreign support for their cause. It should also be noted that medical trips to the southern neighbor have been intensifying of late, indicating that the neighbor in question has once again started micromanaging the affairs in Nepal. So we should be aware all the more. On this cautious note, I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk. Please comment on my presentation. Please like and subscribe to my channel if it really touches your heart and mind. If it really touches your hearts and minds, that is the purpose of this presentation. Thank you for watching.